Hi, welcome to Women Created and Called Live. Today we're going to be talking about making decisions without fear. And it's kind of funny, right before I went live, I experienced a different kind of fear when I dropped my iPhone without its case on. Have any of you ever done that? That is a fearful moment. I gotta tell you, I was like, oh no, I hope it didn't crack the screen. But it appears that it is no more cracked than it already was. I still need to get that fixed. Anyway, today we're talking about a different kind of fear, and that is the kind of fear that comes up when we are facing a decision. And before we get into the decision-making part of this topic, I want to talk a little bit about that commandment, really, to be not afraid or do not fear. Now, you may have heard, as I have heard before, I've heard that rumor, I'm going to call it a rumor, that these words or something similar appear in the Bible 365 times, so that there's one for every day of the year. I think, at least in my mind, that has been debunked now as a myth. Just from looking, kind of looking it up, and I didn't literally go in and count how many times. But I have seen some sources that have debunked that idea. But that's not the point. Oh, and also the sites that seem to claim that actually don't list 365, and it turns out that there are some places in the Bible where it says something like those words, but they're actually not encouraging. And it's not, when you take it in context, it's not something that you would want to hang on to. So, but that's not the point here. The point is that Jesus did tell us to be not afraid several times, many times. And so that is definitely something that we can hang on to and take in as something that is helpful for us. And these times when these words, or again, something similar, was spoken by Jesus, something that we can take note of is that there's no shame or guilt around those words. Sometimes when we feel afraid about something, some of us can feel a lot of, we're experiencing anxiety. Very often it's, anxiety that is strong enough that we feel it very strongly in our body. But sometimes when we feel afraid, we can feel very guilty about having the fear in the first place. And along with that guilt, we can feel shame about it. We might think, if I feel afraid, that means that I don't trust God enough. Have you ever felt like that? I think I have at times. But what I wanted to point out is, like I said, when Jesus said these words, there was no guilt or shame around those words. If you look at it in context, those times when he said it, there was only tender mercy and healing that was available. He was offering healing. It was more like, here, let me help you with this. And also, just keep in mind that the feeling of fear is, as all of our feelings are, it's a gift from God. And he wouldn't give us the gift of that feeling without it having a purpose. Obviously, we can feel fear when we're in danger about something, and it is a way to keep us safe. But what I wanted to really talk about today is when fear comes up, when we're trying to make a decision, it is possible to go ahead and make the decision and then act on it, even if there is fear present. And not only is that okay to do, it is following God's will to do so. So, one thing, as I thought about this topic, one thing that came up for me was that, and one thing that I wanted to let you know, is that God doesn't expect us to make choices based on what we do not know or we cannot know. Because sometimes when we feel fear and when we have a decision to make, I think that very often, and sometimes that fear can be coming from a different place, but very often it's a fear of making the wrong choice. And when we are focused on that fear of making the wrong choice, we can end up spinning and just literally staying stuck in that fear and not moving forward. We're not making the choice at all, and we're certainly not going to act on a decision that we made. And if God is calling you to something and you're choosing not to choose where he's leading you, you're choosing not to act on it, and that's actually an act of disobedience. I don't know about you, but that's not what I want to do. That's not where I want to go. So, when it comes to making decisions, like I said, God doesn't expect you to make choices based on what you do not know or you cannot know. Instead, he asks for us to give it due diligence, which means that we are teachable, and to practice prudence. And I'm going to talk more about those two things in just a second. But I wanted to point out that in my 10 simple steps to begin your discernment, this is a free lead magnet that I have available. It's a free guide, and it outlines these 10 simple steps that you can go through to help you make a decision. Something just happened with my camera, and I don't know what just happened. I don't know why. Am I all upside down now? I don't even know. Okay, I'm going to keep going and hope that you are still seeing me with the right orientation that you're supposed to. If any of you hop on, please leave in the comments if you are viewing this video okay. Goodness, I really hope that this isn't an issue. So, 10 simple steps to begin your discernment. So this, as I said, is available. It's a free resource that I have created. And so if you haven't gotten your copy yet and downloaded it for yourself, I want to encourage you to do that. And I will make sure and leave the link for it in the comments. Now, in those 10 simple steps, step number 6 is to narrow your options, do some research, and seek trusted counsel. And it's this research part that I want to talk about for just a second. So, like I said, he does want us to do diligence, be teachable, and to practice prudence. And prudence in this context means that you are going to find out as much as you can in order to help you make that decision, so that you can make a prudent decision. So I wanted to share with you when I went through this big, this discernment process back in 2019 is when it was. And if you have heard me share before, I think I took a whole year, almost a whole year, to go through this discernment process and really discern where God was leading me in my life at that time. And where it ended up was starting out with starting a blog. And these 10 simple steps kind of came out of that process that I experienced and all of the things that I have learned since then along the way. But I will share that the research part was a huge piece of that for me, because I was gathering information. At the time, I barely knew what a blog was. And so to feel like Jesus was calling me, and I say Jesus was calling me to do this because I spent so much time in front of the Blessed Sacrament during that process. I was like, are you kidding me? You want me to do what? So there was a lot of research to be done. But that research played a huge part in me, in how equipped I felt to actually make the choice to begin to take action. I make the choice and then take action toward what I believed he was calling me to. Now, little disclaimer, disclaimer might not be the right word, but maybe you'll know what I mean. I now see that discernment does not have to take a whole year like it did for me. And that is one reason why I created this guide for you, because discernment can be done in a very short time. And taking the fear out of making the decision is a huge part of shortening that discernment time. And you may think, and I have thought this at times too, okay, discernment has to take a long time because God is going to work in his time, not mine. And that is absolutely true. However, that does not mean that you can't take actions along the way in the midst of that discernment. So, what I teach, the process that I teach, is about going ahead and making a choice, through this process. You make a choice and you act on it, and then you continue to be open to change. It's okay if things change. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So we're going to talk about what happens along the way after you have started to take action. So as I was saying, research is important. You're doing your diligence and you're practicing prudence. Also, we can only know, when we're in the middle of this discernment process, we can only know what God has chosen to reveal. And whether he has revealed it directly to us or he has revealed it in that would be a private revelation if it's directly to you, or if it has been a public revelation. Examples of that would be what he has revealed about himself in sacred scripture, and also what he has revealed through the teaching body of the church, the magisterium. And you can find all of that information in the catechism. And I'm referring to the catechism of the Catholic Church. And then there are also, I talked briefly about the private revelations. So that's the things that you have experienced in your life. God has revealed so much to you if you look back on your life experiences. So he has revealed not only things about him, and very often what he has revealed about him to you has come through one of those public revelations. Maybe you discovered something in scripture that really spoke to you and applied to your life at that time. That's God revealing himself to you through scripture. It's so beautiful how that works. Or, maybe it was something that you learned through the teachings of the church. And so he has revealed himself to you in lots of different ways. And so these are places that are very dependable for you to do that research in your discernment process. But do remember that he doesn't reveal everything to you, because honestly, there's no way that any one of us would be able to handle everything that God could reveal to us. He, in his mercy, reveals exactly what you need to make the decision that you are facing in this moment, in this season. So, although you may not know everything, trust God that you know enough. And this is why, to come full circle, this is why we can make decisions without fear. Because when you seek his will, and again, you're trying to practice prudence before you make your choice, then he equips you with exactly what you need to make that choice. You are equipped with exactly what you need to choose his will. That is a beautiful thing. And a little side note here about grace. Because these things come to us through grace. And if you've been following me for a little while, you may have heard me talk about this equation. And that is your natural gifts, the natural things that God has given you when he created you, plus God's grace in every moment of every day that is available to you, equals exactly what you need to do his will. And so in the context of making decisions, this is just one more example of another time when he gives you exactly what you need to do his will in that moment. And part of receiving that grace is being open to it and ready to receive it. And there is something very loud outside right now. I apologize. Hopefully it will pass very quickly. Oh, I think it's a lawnmower. How fun. Okay, so I am going to try and finish up this episode as quickly as I can. Okay, so we can make decisions without fear. I think there must be some spiritual warfare going on, because we're just having all kinds of the tech challenges today. So you are equipped. Sorry, I have lost my train of thought a little bit and I got a little flustered, but we're back on track now. You are equipped to do His will in this moment, in this decision, in this season. And when you begin to act on that choice, this choice that you have made, and that action is in an effort to follow where He is leading you. And side note, even if your actions are imperfect and messy, when you go ahead and act in and try and walk in this path that He is showing you, God can make something so beautiful from the gift, your gift of those actions. And here is a little bit of an example. When I started that blog, oh goodness. When I started that blog, as I said, I barely knew what a blog was. I had no idea what I was doing. But I took one small step after another. And as I look back on these steps, I can see that they were all stepping stones to something greater. And because I continued to take those steps, it allowed God to lead me where I am today. And that is with the opportunity to serve Him by serving you through sharing my experiences and my insights on this podcast, and with a coaching business that I love. So, to be clear now, all the good that comes from those actions, those little steps along the way, all the good that comes from those is a result of God's grace working in and through us. None of it can be earned, and none of it can happen on our own. We just get to respond to the grace that He has available for us in those moments. So here's the thing. What if things don't turn out the way you wanted or you expected from this decision that you have made? You know, the fear is there. You noticed you felt fear about making this decision. And you continued anyway. You made a choice and you began to act on it. All the while with the intention of doing God's will, because you seeked His will first. But what if things don't turn out the way that you thought they would? Okay, this happens to me, I would almost say daily. Frequently, for sure. But first thing I would say about that, when things don't turn out the way we hoped. First of all, God's gift of grace is still present in the outcome that has happened. Not the outcome you were expecting, but the outcome that is reality. So, if God's grace is present in that, He's got a gift for you. You get to look for it. And very often, these little gifts of grace show up in the form of a lesson. I have noticed in my own life, every time that something does not turn out the way that I had hoped, not turned out the way that I expected, there has been huge lessons available for me in those moments, if only I will remember to look for them. Second thing about, when things don't turn out the way you had hoped, dance. And when I say dance, I mean pivot. I love this image. I think I may have shared it on the podcast once before, but I love this image of dancing your way across a dance floor. You have the intention of crossing this dance floor, okay? You want to get from where you are to where you want to be. Maybe there's some your best friend is on the other side of the dance floor. I don't know. But your path to get there, you got to go across the actual dance floor in order to get there. So, are you going to be able to take a straight path across a dance floor? Well, people are dancing all around. Let's say it's full. It's a full dance floor. Probably not. You're going to have to dance your way across the floor. And this simply means, again, just be ready to pivot. I have noticed that the winding path to an intended destination is often full of beauty. And again, that's those moments of hidden grace that are there and waiting for you to discover them. It's like a surprise birthday present kind of thing. It's like, oh, here's a gift for you, God says to you. It's like a surprise birthday present because very often they're very surprising. I've noticed in my experience. So they're full of beauty. These moments, these winding paths are full of beauty that would have been completely missed if the path were straight. Think about how that's true for you in your life. Can you think of a time when the path to what you intended was very windy, or at least did not look like the way that you thought it was going to go? And you look back and you can see all of the beauty that you got to experience along the way. Okay, so number 3, when things don't turn out the way that you had thought that they would, persevere. Don't stop in the middle of the dance floor and just stand there. That is not going to get you to your intended destination. That's not going to get you to your best friend on the other side of the dance floor if you just stop. And for another analogy, don't start out as in step out of the boat and then notice all the wind and the waves around you and decide to stop walking. That's a good way to sink. Instead, keep your focus on your destination. In the boat analogy, keep that focus on Jesus and keep walking. Keep going. And then number 4, when things don't turn out quite the way that you thought that they would, get support, evaluate, and again, try again. When we fall, we get up and we keep going. And I just want to note that coaching is a fantastic way to do this because it can help you not only keep going. Sometimes a coach is so fantastic to keep you motivated because, as I said on a previous episode, we can always count on motivation to ebb and flow, to not be there all the time. So a coach can help you keep going, but also they can help you see things that you might not have noticed the first time that you tried. So if you picture that dance floor again. If you start out on that dance floor and you don't see that there is this couple dancing and they're really cutting a rug. That's a really old phrase, isn't it? But they are dancing all over the place and you don't see them coming. You're gonna run into them and you might get hurt. And it might slow you down getting, across the dance floor to go meet your friend. So, in this analogy, a coach can help you spot the things that might slow you down and also help you avoid things that could cause you to get hurt, and they can help you keep going. They can help you with that pivot. And even if they don't have the answer, they don't necessarily tell you how you're going to pivot, but they help you realize that you have the answer already. Or in my case, since I help you go to God, connect with God to seek His will, you can go to prayer and find answers. So, coaching is so fantastically helpful. Fantastically, is that a word? I'm sorry if it's not. But that is so helpful to get support, evaluate, and then keep trying. So, if fear is something that comes up for you when you face decisions and you would like to see how coaching can help you with that, let's connect. Leave the word coach in the comments of this episode, and then come find me either on Facebook or on Instagram and leave me a message, or you can drop me an email at beth@womencreatedandcalled.com. And then join me next week for another episode of Women Created and Called Live. And until then, God bless you and all those that you love. Bye.